we have talked about why we need MDM, and then what is a master data. Plus, we have also talked about data flow process, where we can transfer data from landing to till the formation of master data. Like we have landing zone, staging, loading, match, and merge, and the result is going to be the what master data. So that is what was discussed, and after that we can communicate this master data to what external applications, like we have any application, just to make it very simple. It could be anything. It could be portal application, or it could be standalone, or it could be even external app interface. So any one of them, what can be used. Now, once we understand that, next step is going to be what we need to start getting into what understanding the architecture. So we have also talked about architecture, where we could able to see what 3 layers in it, where each layer has got its own responsibilities, and we have talked about all these layers, right? Like what each layer does and how data will be communicated to outside app using what interface that we have within this MDM hub, right? Now, the next thing is what we need to start getting into what understanding the different components that we have within this MDM hub, right from model till the notification part. So we have talked about it. I'll just try to summarize. Model is a visual representation, quality to clean up, identity to identify match, reliability to create a master data, hierarchies and stewardship. If we have a data in hierarchical order, then how are we going to manage it? Then once you perform any change or master data, whatever, right? Then how do you communicate? That's it. This is a summary of what we have within this MDM hub components. Now, till this we are done. Now, the next is what comes in, what goes out, what happens in between we discussed, and how to interface with what third-party tools. Let us start with this particular what source. Source data could be anything. As we discussed on yesterday's session, that source data can come in one of the 4 categories which we have discussed. Like we have structured data, unstructured data, application oriented data, and legacy data. So one of these form we would get it, but any form that doesn't matter for us if you think from the MDM perspective, because this interface tools, they need to be responsible in order to take care of reading the data from external apps or external source systems. It could be anything, only some of them are listed here. Like it could be ESBs, which is Enterprise Service Bus, which is what entity analytic integration, whatever, and then master of master, and then ETL, extract transform load. But these are just examples, but the input could be anything, and interface tool also could be anything. It's not mandatory that we need to use this, but we can use even simple or we can write a simple shell script where we can write a script to read it by by formatting it by using a sed or awk commands or whatever, and then translate that to the MDM understandable form. It's very straightforward. We don't need to use any tool. We have what very good cell commands through which we can convert data from external source to hub understandable format. That's it. Yeah, but while getting the data by using tools or whatever, shell script or whatever, we could get it from in one of these modes, which we all know, right? Like we have a batch mode, we have what real-time mode, and we have what nearer real-time mode. So these are the what different modes through which we can get the data from what sources. Yeah. So depending upon what type of business that we deal with, we can choose what appropriate mode. For example, let us say we are dealing with what real-time applications. For example, as and when data entry happens in the source system, right, then immediately we need to fire an event and start reading the data from such what source systems. So how are we going to take care of it? So that's where we need to use what real-time mode, yeah, where we can fire what we call events as and when the data comes in and start getting it processed. Yeah? And then the second is what batch mode, which is straightforward. In batch, we have two sub modes. One is a command mode, and second is what schedule mode. Yeah. So which means what on demand mode, command or on demand we call, which means what as and when you want to execute what this landing operation, we could always do that by using what this particular what batch mode. Yeah, this is what we call on-demand execution. Whenever you want, you can just click and execute. That's it. Yeah, to make it in a very what simple way. Yeah, and then second mode within a batch is what we can schedule landing jobs like ETL jobs or ETL workflows. Yeah, like for example, we can start what reading the data, like what let us say at 12 p.m. IST execute this particular learning jobs. Yeah, we can just schedule. So during that date and time, this particular learning job would get executed. And yeah, these are the two modes we have within the batch operation. Yeah. So next is what near real time. It is a mix of what both batch and real time we can say, because what we do here is we keep getting our execution of this service based on time slice manner, which means every 30 minutes or every 30 seconds or every 1 hour, whatever. Yeah. So which means what it is not neither real time nor batch. So we can say even batch also we can execute, but here this guy always keep polling for the data. If the data change or data end or what you call arrival happens during that time, then the execution happens, or else execution is not going to take place in case of what near real time. Yeah. So that's what happens with these three modes. Yeah. But anyway, using any of these modes, we could get the data to an entry point of what MDM hub. Now, once you get the data, then what and all we do within this hub, we have already discussed, right? Like building a model, qualifying what you call cleansing the data, identify dupes, convert them to single record, and manage the data if there is a need to manipulate. Yeah. So then communicate this to what external systems. Yeah. So that's what we do within this what hub components. Once we are done with that, now the next is what how are we going to communicate this to what different consumers. Again, we can use either third-party interface tools, and then where using them we can transfer using what one of these modes, like we have batch mode, real-time mode, and near real-time mode. I repeat, batch mode, real-time mode, and near real-time mode. Yeah? These are the different modes that we use in order to make MDM Hub data to be available to any app. App could be mart or warehouse or portal or whatever. Yeah, doesn't matter, anything. Yeah. So that's it about source. Like what comes in, what do we do, how do we communicate? But what if some things are not supported by this particular MDM Hub? So how are we going to take care of that? So that's where we have interface tools. Can you see here? There are different interface tools through which we can make third-party functionality to be available to MDM Hub. For example, let us take a metadata manager, which is going to be the first interface we have within this hub, through which we can now make the third-party model to be available to MDM Hub. I repeat, we can make third-party model to be available to what? MDM Hub. For example, as we discussed yesterday, that assuming that we have built a model, yeah. Once we build a model, then by using any tool, open source or commercial tool or whatever, then what do we need to do? We need to make use of that particular model rather than building it from scratch. So how are we going to do that in this MDM? To do that, we use what? Metadata manager. I repeat, to do that, we use what? Metadata manager, through which we can integrate. There is a simple import operation through which we can integrate third-party model to this hub. But the prerequisite here is what? Before we import, make sure that third-party model has got CWM extension, which is what? Common warehouse model. Then only this particular MDM Hub understands. Remember, yeah? So that we need to make sure. Similarly, once you what I call import, right, all the, let us say, third-party terms, let's say subject areas or entities or whatever, right, all of them will be converted to MDM Hub understandable form. Yeah? So that's what happens with this particular metadata manager. After that, in case assuming that you have modified something, which means what? Within the hub, after integration, if you have modified, then if you want to make these modifications to be available to what? To the external applications or external modeling tools. In such cases also, we could always export this hub model to what? CWM form, which can be imported onto what? Third-party tools. Yeah. So that's it. That's about metadata manager part. And next is what? We have authorization and authentication. Remember, by default within this MDM Hub, we have what? Different authentication and authorization interface. Yeah, which means what? We can create users, groups, all that, and assign privileges, all that can be done here. Yeah? But what if you want to make use of what? External authentication and authorization interface. So that is going to be the question mark. To answer that, we have what? This particular interface within this. There's external service providers through which we can now get third-party authentication authorization to this hub. For example, we have LDAP, right? So LDAP normally many organizations follows that, yeah, by using direct interface, right? So in case if you want to utilize LDAP authentication and authorization to this particular MDM hub, we could always do that. Yeah, so we have that. So whatever authentication and authorization that we have within the external tool, right, like LDAP or whatever, we can avail them within this hub. Yeah, so we don't need to follow what internal hub provided authentication and authorization mechanism, right? And next is going to be what? Workflow engine. Remember, by default within this hub we are going to make use of what? Cyprian workflow engine. I repeat, by default within this MDM hub we are going to make use of what? Cyprian workflow engine. Yeah. So but in case if other workflow engine which has got more capabilities than what we have within this Cyprian, right? We have an interface which is what? Workflow engine interface, through which we can integrate this Cyprian or with hub console with third-party workflow engine. Especially there is a supported third-party workflow engine which is what? Fujitsu, through which we can integrate, yeah, in order to avail what third-party functionality to this hub. That's it. So likewise we have some more which are not listed within this diagram. So these are the what different peripherals like this, and for what? For MDM hub what components. Yeah? So that's what we could able to see over here. Clear? Any questions here? So now that we all know like how to make this particular what hub which can be integrated to this third-party interface tools. Once we do that, next step is going to be what? We need to start getting into one by one, which is what do we do as part of model. Yeah? So to answer that, let us try to log on to what hub console client and start getting into building a data model. After that, I'm trying to cut down theory, so we'll get into why we need all of them. I'll talk about them. Yeah, fine. So let me start getting into what this tool. Fine. Now that we have this, yeah, this particular so first and foremost thing within this hub, right, what do we need to do? We need to bring up what application server. This could be anything, JBoss, WebLogic or JetSphere. So make sure that we are going to bring up this particular application server. Yeah. So I'll talk about installation steps. For now, I can just remember that this is what we need to issue in order to bring up what? App server. Yeah. So once we do that, next step is going to be what we need to log on to what web. Yeah. Because this is a web-based what application. So whatever you do, you could able to log in from what any supported browser. Yeah. So let us start supplying the host name, which is a simple HTTP protocol. So host name followed by port number followed by what CMX, which is going to be the master database. Yeah. So this is what we need to supply just to get started with what MDM Hub. Yeah? Now, once we have this starting page, then as we discussed in the architecture that we have what Hub Console is one of the application. So how are we going to launch that particular application, or how are we going to bring up that particular application? So that's where we need to what click on launch, so that we could able to bring up what this application. Yeah. So remember, in order to open this file, can you see Cyprian console.jnlp, which is Java native language protocol. Yeah. So that's why you need to, if you have Java, then you are 100% of MDM guy, or else you are not 100% of MDM guy. So the extension, which means in order to bring up this Hub Console itself, it uses what .jnlp, which is what Java native language protocol. Yeah. So in order to open this file with this extension, we have to have what Java Web Start, yeah, which should have been installed somewhere. Once we have that, which is what Java Web Start, then we need to browse and supply this particular executable. So because a web-based application, right, to open web-based app, we need to use what Java Web Start. Name itself suggests that. Yeah. Now can you see here, this anyway we have already used it, that's why we already have this Java Web Start launcher. Yeah. Then say OK. Yeah. Fine. Now based on this, what it is going to create Cyprian console.jnlp file, and then we could able to what look at here. Can you see here, this is a console which is generated now. Now you can click on this console. Can you see here, which means you are trying to click that particular file, which is just like an executable, which we are opening through what Java Web Start. So Java Web Start is the one of the utility which is going to facilitate us to open all the files which has extension of what JNLP. Yeah. So that's what happens over here. Yeah. Now once we do that, next step is going to be what we need to supply username and password. Fine. So let us start supplying that. Yeah. So yeah, fine. So this is what username and password. Now we can log on to any what ORS here. Yeah. So remember, we can see n number of ORS databases where n equal to what 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 master database, which means what, when you install first time this master database, right? Yeah. When you install first time, right, you can see only master database. You don't see other databases. So in order to make other ORS databases to be appeared as part of this list, we need to make sure that we register them. Once you register, then once you register successfully, then we could able to see entries over here. That's it. Now what we did, we have selected vendor ORS, so which we discussed as part of architecture, right? One type of database is what ORS database. Yeah. Now we have logged on to ORS database. Yeah. Can you see here in the status bar bottom, you can see what ORS and also the user who logged on to this particular ORS. Yeah. And how much memory that has been utilized out of 500 MB or whatever, right? So that's it. So this is what is the starting point of bringing up Hub Console. So now we brought up this, which one? This Hub Console. Now the next step is going to be what? We are going to make use of this particular role, which is going to be the, let us say, developer role. Why? In order to perform different what development activities. So let us start doing that, because as we all know that against with ORS, what are the operations that we could perform? One, development activities. Second, what? Steward activities. So we logged in with what? Vendor ORS. So we can start performing different activities right from model to till utilities. So configuration part cannot be done against with what? ORS database. So that's what we could able to see over here, right? Now once we are done with this, which means what? This bringing up this ORS by using hub console, the first and foremost thing, in order to perform what any hub operation, we need to what? Acquire a lock, which is mandatory. I repeat, the first and foremost thing that we do in order to perform any hub operation is what? Acquiring a lock. So this is what we need to do. Once you acquire a lock, then the next step is what? We have talked about different MDM hub components, right? Then within n number of hub components, then what do we need to do? We need to start from a scratch, which is going to be what? Model. Like how are we going to what? Start building a data model, which is going to be the first and foremost thing. So in order to do that, we need to use what? Schema manager tool, which is highlighted now, right? So which means in order to build a model here within hub console, anyway we use schema manager, but within that what do we do? So within that we need to start identifying what? Different entities or subject areas, which we call in MDM context is what? Base object tables. So which means what? We need to start identifying what? Different base object tables. Once we start identifying them, start creation of those base object tables. So which is going to be the starting point of building a data model. So we need to identify n number of base object tables. Once you identify, create them. Once you create them, build or establish the relationship between or among several base object tables, which is what we are going to do now, right? So let us start doing that. Fine. So let us create what? Base object table. To do that, go to base object category, right click and say add item, and supply what? Base object table name. Let's say BO, let's say pharma customers example, pharma cust. Fine. Now remember, in MDM hub, every base object table will have, every table, not only base object table, every table that we create within this MDM hub will have prefix of what? C underscore, right? Right? If you want to change, you can change it, but it's better to follow same what? Naming convention. Plus every table that we have or that we have created or that we are going to create should point to what? Data and index table spaces. I repeat, every table that we have within this what MDM hub should point to what? Data and index table spaces. So that's what we need to do over here. Now once we are done with that, then the next step is going to be what? We can look at what? Like what this particular base object table does. We can supply a description over here. Once we are done with that, then we can make this base object table as what? Secure, which means what? This particular base object table can be accessible from outside. So that's what is meant by what this secure resource enable. If you disable that, then it will become as what? Private. Which one? Base object table. So if it is a private, nobody can access this base object table. Clear, right? Any questions here? Yeah, once we do that, say what? Okay, can you see here? There is a base object table which is already in use. So we can change the base object table name, like cust to, let us say, November we are trying to create, right? So that is fine. And then say what? Okay. So this is what we need to do in order to create what base object table from scratch. Fine. Any questions over here? Yeah. So with this, what we know how to create base object table. Yeah. Can you see here? This new base object table appears as part of what? Active list. Yeah. Now remember, whenever we create a base object table, it is going to add which one? It means what? MDM hub is going to add n number of what system columns. Out of them, one is what? Pick is source object or primary key. What primary key, which we call row ID object over here, which is what unique ID for the identification of each row. Can you see here? This is not nullable and with a type of char with a length of 14. Yeah. Now, apart from that, we have 13 system columns. Can you see here? Which you can look at over here. Why do we need all these 13 system columns? We need them in order to keep track of each record, like from which source system each record has come from. Yeah? So that's where these system columns will be used for. Clear, right? So that's it. Now let us try to understand some of the basic columns, like how they'll be used to keep track of what each record. For example, creator system column will be used in order to identify like who created this particular record, and create date will be used in order to identify like when this particular record has been created, and then updated by system column will be used in order to identify like who updated this particular record and when this particular record was updated. And now there are 3 system columns which are related to what? Deletion. So for example, by default, deleted indicator value will be 0. Yeah. And if there is a change happens, which means what, from one state to deleted state, then indicator value will be non-zero. So once you make or once you delete a record, then we can keep track of that, like who deleted this when it was deleted. Yeah. Remember, when you delete a record still exists in the base object table, but it will be marked as what? Deleted, which we call soft deletion. Yeah. Fine. And then we have what? Another system column, which is last word system, which is going to what? Help us in order to identify like from which source system this each record has come from. And then we have what? Dirty indicator, which indicates what? Whether the record has been tokenized or non-tokenized. What is the tokenization? I'll talk about it later. For now, this is just a flag to indicate what tokenized, not tokenized. Yeah? And then we have what half state indicator, which is going to help us in order to keep track of whether the record is what active, pending, or deleted. Yeah? Which means what any state change happened or any state change was done by whom? Data steward. Can you see here? State can change from active to pending, active to deleted, or any one state to other state. If any change happens, right, those changes will be stored where? In this particular system column, which is half state indicator. What is the state management? All that I'll talk about it later. For now, you can just remember that state changes will be logged within this system column. Yeah? Now we have another system column, which is what? Interaction ID, which will be used in order to what? Protect pending records which can be participated within the match process. Which means what? Let us say by default what happens is, we talked about this first, right, because there's a dependency for that. So because if you say if data steward made or converted from one to pending state, one state to pending state, then what happens? By default, if the records are in pending or deleted state, those records will not be participated to identify matching records. In order to make them to be participated to identify matching records, then we need to enable a flag which we call interaction ID. Enable protect on pending records. There is a property. If we enable that, this flag will be set. As a result, pending records also will be part of match. That's it. Yeah. And then finally we have very important column, which is going to be what? Consolidation indicator, which is going to be the very important column, yeah, which is going to help us in order to identify like where we are while formation of what? Golden record or master record. So we have what? 4, 3, 2, 1, 9. These are the what? Different indicator values that will be stored against with what? Consolidation indicator. So first indicates what? New record, and then if the indicator value is 3, then it will be what? Queued for match, and if the indicator value is 2, queued for what? Merge, and then if the indicator value is 1, then which means what? Consolidated or merged. Yeah? That's it. And then finally we have 9 indicates what? If the record is kept on hold, then the indicator value will be 9. So all these indicator values will be stored against with what? Consolidation indicator system column. Yeah? So that's what happens with this what indicator values. So when it what I call, when it is going to be new record, when it is going to queued for match, queued for merge, all that, right? Those things anyway we are going to talk as we go on. Fine. There's one more here, content metadata data indicator. So whenever the record has been tokenized, you'll have tokenized data, right? That data will be kept as part of content metadata data indicator. That's it. Yeah. These are the different system columns. So 13 plus 1, total 14 columns. Yeah. Now, on top of that, we can start creation of what? User defined columns. Again, where we are dealing with what? ORS only. Remember. Yeah? So we'll do that after what? Short break. Fine. If you have any questions so far, please ask now so that we can discuss. Yeah. Yeah, if there are no questions, then we'll take a break for 3-4 minutes. Then we'll come back and we'll continue from here. Yeah. Thank you.